Hey everyone, this is Kevin and thanks for joining. So, my cousin recently asked me if she should invest in Raleigh, North Carolina. I already have property in Raleigh, even though I live in San Jose, and I wanted to just record this series to help her out. So, in this series, I'm going to search for random properties that I find on Zillow or online, do a little bit of market research in the surrounding neighborhood, and kind of give her my feedback on whether I think I can even find a profitable property in that zip code. So why don't you watch along? I won't be insulted if you turn it to 1.5x. I just hope you find something valuable as I go through and record myself searching for profitable properties. Let's get started. So what I have open here is my buy box I created in Google Sheets. I just made this myself. I couldn't find any examples online, and if there's enough interest, maybe I'll record a video myself walking through my buy box and the framework that I use to evaluate properties. But why don't you guys just follow along and see what we got here. So in this video, let's just randomly try to find some properties that might be interesting. I'm going to search for Raleigh, North Carolina. I tend to invest in single family homes, so we'll go from there, right? So let's close a few of these things. Let's remove the boundary. Let's set some filters just for it to be realistic, right? So I know her budget, my cousin's budget is around 400K. It's pretty high, but it's the national average, right? The national average is somewhere in the low 400s right now. I also think beds and baths. I think the sweet spot for investment properties is a 3-2. Nothing too small, nothing too large. Provides great stability for tenants. Let's look for homes. I tend to look for multifamily. I'm interested in apartment buildings, things like that. We could look at townhomes. Not a huge fan of them. Let's look at filters. I'm not a fan of HOAs, not a huge fan, but you know what? Let's leave it at 100 a month, something like that. Let's look at let's see if there's anything else. Okay, let's not show 55 plus communities because hard to invest in. I love days on Zillow. Let's do not fresh listings. Let's do something a little old. Let's also look for, I like to look for reduced. There's nothing there. So let's try something else. Let's try a different word. Price. Let's try price. Maybe there's a price cut or something like that. See if there's anything new. That's a little too much. Let's turn that. Let's try reduce. So the days on Zillow is messing us up. Let's just do this really quickly. Okay, so there's a few homes. Let's check our filters. This was price cut of nearly 40,000. Let's see, this one, showcase. Did it have a price cut? Price reduced. So, okay, so our filters are working. And there's not a lot of options right in downtown Raleigh. There's some in south. So I own a property right in the edge of Raleigh, close or right on the edge of Gardner and Raleigh. I am familiar with North Carolina. I used to work in RTP, Research Triangle Park, and so I'm familiar with Cary being kind of the most desirable area in that region, flush with great schools and things like that. I think Durham is a great place. Actually, I want to start looking more into Durham. I think it's a younger environment, more up and coming. I believe Duke is in that area, really great area to invest in. But my cousin asked me about Raleigh, so let's just randomly pick a few pieces of property in Raleigh and see what's interesting. See if I can find anything interesting. You can see I've always been looking in Raleigh. See if I've saved a few properties. Maybe over time some things that are interesting. So again, this is just an exercise. So let's just pick 3 properties and see what comes up, profitable, not profitable. So interesting thing about Raleigh, I know about Raleigh, you have the 440 and it's kind of a circle loop. So most of the communities follow kind of this loop for commuting. And so you want to be relatively close. So let's pick something kind of in this region. Let's pick something random, in this region and something over here, right? So let's pick something high. Timberlake Estates. That I have no idea. This looks random. Let's take a look and let's see if this is profitable. This has been on the market for 54 days and recently had a price cut. As an investor, those are two things that I pay attention to right away. It's kind of days on market and did it recently have a price cut? It didn't. The seller didn't pull the listing, so you know they're willing to sell and you know they're willing to negotiate, and that's always an area of interest for me as an investor. Let's quickly look through this really quickly. What do I see? 1,500 square foot. So that's not a bad size, pretty good size. Like I said, close to the interstate, which is great, and built in 2020. So not bad. Hopefully not too much overhead investment. Let's quickly look at the schools, because that's, as an investor, gives me a strong indication of the desirability of that neighborhood. This tells me price per square footage and all that stuff. See if I can quickly look for schools. So average schools, I wouldn't say anything crazy high. For Raleigh, I'm looking at 9s and 10s in all honesty. So something in the 6.5s, 6s, they're not awful, but also not amazing for Raleigh. So I don't think this would appreciate above the general area. I would think this would trend close to whatever anyone else is looking at. So let's quickly look at these. This gives me some quick estimates. Do I believe these are super accurate? No, but I do think they're useful to gather kind of a ballpark figure on things like that. So something to pay attention to. Do I believe in property tax points? Yeah, that's about right. As I said, I have a Raleigh property already. This looks a little low, I'll be honest, but let's stick with that. Home insurance, I think that is actually quite high for landlord insurance. I pay about $70 a month, 70 something dollars a month for landlord insurance on a property that's worth more. That's a new build as well. So I'm going to lower that number and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so first things first, what do? I track my address really quickly, and I will look at this information really quickly. So let's go back to my buy box. Click away. Let's put that there. Zip code 27604. So let's say zip code. What do I remember about it? It's about 1,500 square foot. I'll clean that up later. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, built in 2020. Don't know the lot size. Action note, nothing that I can think of. Comments, single family home. I will say middle grade schools. And so I would rank that a B, single family home, no HOA, pretty awesome. But the school district's not the greatest, and things that really drive commuting or renters in Raleigh, North Carolina are the schools. So I'm going to knock that down a little bit. Date it was listed. Let's look at that really quickly. I forget. It's been about 54 days. Today is June 9th. So I don't remember exactly. I'm going to back calculate that. That's going to put it into, let's say, April, 1st of April or something like that, right? Let's do 1st of April, 2026. Oh, my math is way off there. So let's fix that to May, I don't know, May. Sorry, I can't do simple math right now. And we will, let's put that towards, apologies. Lucky number 13. Okay, April 13th. Let's say when we would hope to buy, let's just make up a number. It's going to be future, no need for that. What was the list price? Let's look at this really quickly. Oops, sorry. Let's look at that really quickly. The list price was 39,000. Oh, sorry, 349,000. Let's click that back. All right. So, whoopsie. Sorry, I put that in the wrong box. Okay. I must have the square footage wrong. Okay, it's a little bit off. And we'll go, so sorry for the clicking back and forth, but hopefully it's useful for you guys to really see how I actually do that. The age of the home, can I verify this? Let's look at the tax information. So there's tax information all the way back to 2016, but that could be land. Let's read. Sold at $35,000. Okay, so this looks real, like it really was built in 2020. Let me just read this again really quickly. So the home offers low maintenance living for first time home. Okay. Okay, so I kind of believe it was built in 2023. Sorry, 2020. So I don't know why it's not calculating, but usually I have that calculating. I don't know the lot size. Can we find it here? Sorry, I clicked away. Let's save this really quick so I don't lose it. 0.28 acres of a lot. I have no idea what that is. So what is 0.28 acres in square feet? Wow. Is that real? Wow. That is humongous. That is a humongous lot. Wow. Raleigh, North Carolina. You get huge lots. So that's awesome. Man, that automatically I think makes it an A, simply because when you own that much land and you have such a small piece of property, your ability to build an ADU to utilize that property is going to be really interesting. It allows you now. Does it make sense for you to build an ADU or just buy another property? It's very location dependent, right? High cost of living areas like the Bay Area, Seattle, LA, ADUs make a lot of sense because the entry is so expensive. So it makes sense to make ADU. I don't know about Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm exploring this as we go along, but definitely that land amount is interesting to me. So I am going to put that as an A. It could be a B, but it's interesting to me, so I put that. This is a subjective score, but the others are hard numbers. So down payment, let's just put 0.25. So let's take the price, 0.25. Whoopsie. And so down payment being 25%, being an investor, a new investor, and again, I'm thinking for my cousin's sake, this would be her first investment property. Most qualified lenders aren't going to be thrilled with an out-of-state investor, first-time a home buyer, and things like that. So they're going to want a lot of skin in the game for her to get a decent rate, and they're most likely going to ask for anywhere from 20 to 25% down payment. And so that's why I estimate that. This was built in 2020. I don't think there's going to be huge repair costs. Let's look at the pictures really quickly. Probably not much. There's already window treatments. Let's look at the photos really quickly. Paint's done well. Can't tell, the siding's a little interesting. Can't really tell that much. Carpet's got lighting. Don't know what that is. This house visually doesn't look appealing, but you know, it's got what it is. I don't know if this is virtually staged or really staged. This looks to be virtually staged, right? Because this is the same empty and then they filled up. Who knows? It doesn't really matter, but gives you a good idea. Pretty straightforward, simple home, nice closet size, updated bathrooms. What am I looking for? What do I see here? I don't see too much damage or anything that needs repair. So we'll quickly go through that. Does not have washer dryer, something for me to think about. Oof, not a huge fan of the deck. Like the siding, that looks relatively new. The railing, okay, but the deck material itself, not the greatest. Trees, has an AC unit, all things for me to pay attention to. Not a huge fan of that deck or the side exit pathway. Good gutters, runoff, huge tree in the area. So things that I just, as an experienced individual, am looking at. Okay, so awesome, looking at that. Okay, so let's go back to that. Repair costs, I'm looking at that deck. I'm not too nervous about it, but I just from experience, I'm going to set aside, let's say you might need anywhere from 5 to 10,000. That's including, holdover for vacancy cost. If you're going to need to hold it over for 2 to 3 months before you can get a tenant in, probably going to have to buy a washer, dryer. It looked like there was a refrigerator in there. I'm not planning for major upgrade of the deck, so that would be built into assumption, but I'm setting aside some buffer amount to handle that, right? So I'm just going to put around 10,000. Closing costs, this is just a calculation on the purchase price and the loan amount, just about 4.5% for closing costs. This is just general good rule of thumb. So cash on hand at time to make the purchase, I would estimate around, you need about 110,000. Now that's a pretty, I would say, safe number to go into and saying for this $350,000 home, I would need total cash of 110. Remember, this home has been sitting on the market for 54 days, just had a price reduction, still sitting on the market. Likely that we could get that number down, but let's just start with the bare bones number and see if this is even worth negotiating or not. I haven't paid attention to interest rates for the last few days, so let's look at what is the average mortgage rate, excuse me, for a 30-year fixed investor loan. Yeah, so let's look at that. So average 30-year fixed currently hovering around investment property generates around usually higher sand day demand large. Do I agree with this right now? I think let's go be fair and let's aim for the middle, right? So 7.25. Let's pick that number as an interest rate today. So 7.25 on a 30-year fix. As you can see, I've auto-calculated a lot of this. I've done this in hundreds of times. And so 30-year fixed interest rate at 7.2% gives you a principal, principal and interest amortized against 30 years, gives you about $1,800 a month. Insurance costs, like I said, I have a Raleigh property and I pay about, I believe, $74 a month. So let's just put that in there because I know, I use Steadily Insurance, landlord insurance, and I know they can get you something around there. Property tax, that is a California rate. So we need to change that number because I live in California, I invest in California. So let's change that. What is the percent property tax rate in Raleigh, North Carolina? That is, what is it? Tell me. Give me the percent. What is the percent, Robert? I don't need to know that. Oh gosh. Total combined rent, 91 cents per $100. So let me do that quick math really quickly here. Oh, it kind of tells you right here. So let's just ask AI. Then what would it be for a property of 349,000? And please create me a formula for Google Sheets I can use as I change the purchase price. So let's do it like that. So like I said, you can use AI. AI is awesome, but I still think it's valuable to put this in yourself. So the tax rate 0.0, here you go. So let's take my cell. Let's copy that. Go back to my buy box. Let's take my cell back and put this number back in there. Let's replace that. Okay. So there goes my property tax, right? Let's just have a sanity check. Let's just do 264 times 12, 3,100. So that looks about realistic, right? So that's the property tax. Out of state investing, property management, I am going to tell you that I use a property management company and they take 5%, 5% of monthly rent. So we'll just set that up when that happens. Other HOAs, this one didn't have any hold for repairs and vacancy. Okay, so let's have a little chat about that. So for brand new investors, I totally tell them, hold about 5%, anywhere from 5 to 10% for repairs, anywhere from 5 to 10% for vacancies, both columns. I am a relatively experienced investor and I have an entire portfolio. So what I have done over time is I've sum upped my total expenses on a monthly basis and I multiply that by 6. I picked 6 because that is my burn rate for what it would take for me to hold my portfolio if I had complete vacancies for 6 months or I had a major repair. I hold that in kind of a high yield savings account. I no longer really need to hold money aside monthly from my cash flow to keep that account funded. I generally have that account built up and I don't need to pull any additional money out. So in my buy boxes, I really don't calculate repairs and vacancy anymore, but that's only because I have a 6-month buffer for my entire portfolio. I think it's a little bit weird to look at cash flow and penalize yourself for repairs and vacancies all the time if you're an investor like me who has a certain amount of cash reserves to ensure that you can afford repairs and vacancies. So I definitely agree, when you're starting off, you build up that fund. And these 2 columns in my buy box are for that reason. For my cousin, for me, I don't do that and it complicates the cash flow. If it's too tight, you'll see. If it's too tight, then let's not do it. But for now, we'll hold it. Generally, I leave these blank, but I will put in a 5% hold from monthly rent. And what I just don't like the perpetuity methodology, but we'll put that in for both repairs and vacancy. 5% for vacancy is low. That's not even a month out of a year. So I think that's exceptionally low. I would tell her have at least 10%. So let's do that. So far, this is your total monthly expenses. This my sheet just tracks that. You can see my formula here. And then this is the annual net operating cost, $25,000. That's a big number, right? Let's look at let's go back to the listing. Let's look at what rents look like in this area. Does it tell me? So let's look at this. Right, Rentzeestimate. 2050. Let's look. Let's just ask Google. So what was this zip code again? What's average rents for a 3-bed, 2-bath, single family home in North Carolina zip code? Let's take a look really quick. So with most properties pricing between 1,800 and 2,400. So, okay, I'm going to take the lower of the 2 numbers just to be conservative. I have property in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think 2120 for a 3-bedroom. This is a little high. And that's because I know it. I am going to take the Zillow number. Some hand waving here. This is a swag. But the Zillow number was 2050. So let's put it at, let's just be conservative. Yeah, let's just do 2050 and pick the lower number than Google. So right off the bat, I can tell you, we know your monthly rent is already lower than your monthly expenses. Why did monthly expenses? Vacancy. Because this is calculating against the wrong number. So let's fix this really quickly and fix that out. Okay. So your monthly expense, including vacancy, hold for repairs. As I said, I normally wouldn't do that, but that's a $300 expense that we're adding monthly. That just is really eating us alive. I don't know if I care for that. Hold for I forgot to talk about this column, but let's say you own a multifamily and you have utilities to pay for, or county assessments or things like that. You might need a holdover. I have property in Raleigh, Raleigh, so I think this is a fair estimate so far of what we have. Monthly rent, we took the lower, we took the Zillow estimate rather than the Google. I think both are fair estimates. I even think 2050 for this size of home could be pushing it. I do think you could find that renter eventually, but it might take a month or two just to find someone this high of rent. You would probably need to allow pets and things like that. I think that's being fair. Gross annual rent being 24,000. That's a nice number. Monthly cash flow. We are negative on this property. Back to the very first question, is this property profitable or not? No, it's not. We're losing $5,800 a year just to hold this property. So I don't think, let's look at the cap rate really quickly. So what's interesting is it yields a 4.5% cap rate. So investors may try to get you there and say, oh, look, it's got a 4.5% cap rate. Your cash on cash return is 5.3% return. So that's awful. I'm not even gonna fill out the other numbers, not worth it. DSCR would not be able to get a non-qualified loan on this because you're below 1, meaning that the rents don't even cover just the loan costs alone to make this property profitable. So first property, 1A, not cool. Let's do an experiment. What if let's copy this line and let's do a pro forma copy, and let's paste everything here. Let's just straight up create a paste. Let's turn this to a scenario B, right? Same property. Now, like I said, this property has been sitting on the market for how many days? I don't know. I forgot. 50 something days, right? 54 days. When was the price cut? The price cut was over a month ago. So it's probably due for another price cut, in all honesty. It's been sitting there. This price change was not enough to motivate any buyer to come in, and seller's probably, still willing to list it. So I would push my luck here. So I would go pretty aggressive and let's lower this price. And hey, you have nothing to lose. Let's go low. Let's say 315. I don't know why I picked that number. I picked it out of my head, but let's bring that down. Let's do some quick thoughts. What is a good deal in Raleigh for a three bed, two bath home for price per square foot? Let's just see what a good deal is, and let's just use that number, right? Ooh, anything under 215, fair market value 215, anything under 215. Okay, so let's go back to our buy box. 215. Let's be aggressive. Why are we being so conservative? Let's take a few percentage points off of 215 and let's go round down. Let's go to 300K. Let's go 310, because I still want to keep at that respectful $200 per price per square foot. So let's see at 310. And that's what I was trying to target. So at 310, does this deal make sense? It brought the mortgage down, right? Your interest rate is insane. Pretty rough right now, and I probably could find better than that in my opinion. I think you can get probably in the mid sixes if this was a DSCR loan. Conventional mortgage, it's going to be hard, so that's why I left it there. Let's leave that alone. You're saving $200 a month. You brought down on taxes, things like that. Ouch, you're still not making any money on this property. So right now, I would just say it's not worth continuing to look at this property. So let's move on to the next one. I hope you guys are having fun. That took a little bit longer than I thought. So so that one, no bueno. I'm gonna unsave that. Not interesting, not cool. Let's find something over here in this area. I saved this a while ago, so it must have been something I took a peek at. Aha, had a price cut recently. Similar Greenwich Street in Raleigh. This is the zip code that I invest in. I have a property in 27610. So let's take a look at this one as we move on to the next property and see if we can find a interesting property. So let's call this 2A. Let's just do the same. So I'm going to move a little bit faster now that we have everything. And let's go look at the demographics really quickly. 3 to 2. Ooh, I love that. Man, these lots are huge. Let's read this. Beautiful move-in. Minutes from downtown. Awesome. Been listed almost 30 days. Had a price cut. Recently, no HOAs. Let's look at the age of the home. Does have central air. Awesome. Quite a bit of history. So this was sold recently and then listed for sale again. Listing removed, listing sold. So this home is most likely a flip home, right? Was listed very high, has had a number of price reductions that aren't shown, but if you look at the history, I can see that those price reductions. But yeah, it was a flip home most likely, and the flipper, and this is an assumption, has been holding this for almost a year. So that is not a fun thing for a flipper. I will tell you that. That's awesome for an investor, not a fun thing for a flipper. Let's look at all this. I know all of this. Schools are a little bit better, not gonna lie. Pretty close too. 1.5, still driving distance. 1 really close, not great, but within walking distance. That's awesome. Okay, so let's look at this home again. So the square footage, let's put that there. Staying within the same 3, 2. I don't remember the age of the home. Let's look at that really quickly. Can I figure that out? Let's look at the top here. Built in 1961. So pretty old. Okay. I'm gonna have to make a formula for this because this is annoying me. But let's do this really quickly. Give me a formula in G Sheet to calculate age of a home based on a variable built age. I don't know, built date. Let's do that. Yep, so let's take that and let's drop that in there. That did not do it right. Because the formula is not working. Oh, minus A2. That's because A2 ain't it. That's what we're looking for. Let's fix this a little. There we go. Let's oopsie. Let's fix this cell and not to G. There we go. Not 7. Not 7. G5. There we go. Let's do that. Okay. Lot size was massive. It was like 10.5. I'm just going to move that along. Single family home. Good schools. Big lot. I am going to give this an A as well. Date it was listed. Let's go look that up again. I'm going to put the most recent listing for sale. That was 5/11. So 5/11/2026, even though it's been on the market for much longer than that, right? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, it's because my thing is not correct. Let's get this down to date. Why is the days on market not working? I don't know. We'll fix that later. Let's pull that on Zillow. It's not important. I can figure that out relatively quickly. 29 days. Okay. I like it to auto-calculate. I'll fix that later because as I check back, in future time, has the property moved in date or not? Or, has the listing gotten stale longer or not? Just had a price reduction, so that is awesome. You know what? I need to do something, and I need to make sure my formulas are copying over. Oh, did not want to do that. Pay special formulas only. I'm gonna have to edit this out. Apologies, it's not working. So let's copy this out. For some reason, it is not being friendly. And there we go. Okay, so here, price per square foot, just from our Google search alone, we know 250 is super expensive. We don't know that for the 27610 zip code. So let's ask that question again. I forgot what I asked. Again, what is a good deal for price per square foot, but for 27610? So let's see if that changes per zip code, see if that's different. Slightly different is anything under 170. Oh, cheaper area for sure. Premium tier, you're in the 250. So we're looking at, let's look at a great deal, right? Immediate equity, built in the sense, yeah. So let's look at that, 170. Let's just remember that for future note, right? This should be one somewhere. It's definitely 170, 190 for something fully remodeled. 250 is really optimistic. We'll go from there. Everything else stays the same, right? Down payment amount. Let's look at the pictures. Let's see what we might need to buy. Oh, so this was, yeah, relatively remodeled. Does that roof look new? I honestly can't tell from the pictures. Doesn't look great, but I can't tell. Oh, that roof looks ugly. This looks like an exterior wall, and this looks like an addition. So who knows what that is? Oh yeah, not a fan of that. But we'll see how that goes. Is that part of that sunroom that they added? Not awesome. Don't know if that's permitted. Let's keep looking. Fireplace. Okay, that's desirable. That's cool. I like the built-ins. I like the style. It's really, really unique. Very homey. Like the way they've staged that. Not a fan of the tile in the back, but like the design. These pendant lights just bring back memories because I had my first home. I had pendant lights like this. My wife and I went to Lowe's and literally bought like the cheapest thing we could find. That's great. This is definitely a flip. I can tell they did not include the refrigerator. I also don't see quick access to a water line, so that's not awesome. Relatively cheap, but you could probably route water from the sink through the cabinets in here, so you'd probably have to pay to install that. Let's keep looking. Yeah, nothing special here to say. Kind of crappy quality, I would say, on the build. Like, what's up with this? Not a huge fan of this gap here. Come on, guys, plan that out better. Not great. Okay, appliances are there. Okay, nothing special. Window treatments included, saves you a few bucks. Ceiling fan, okay. Random maintenance things to do. Nothing special here so far. Tile work is noticeably poor from this view. Window blinds, okay. Nothing special. Cool. All right, let's keep going through. Small rooms, nicely furnished, in sellable condition, This is not going to attract a lot of great buyers. Do not take a look at this exterior picture. That looks new-ish, but low quality. One of those 15-year Home Depot shingles, Not the best. I will tell you that. Elegance quartz corner tiles and showcase and convenience. There we go. Okay, so let's keep going back here. Quickly, do I agree with all of this? So going back to repair costs, I didn't see a washer or dryer. I didn't even see a garage, honestly. So hard to tell if you're going to need that. Did not see a refrigerator with a water line. Do I think that's a necessity? You know, if you're going to rent out to individuals, then in California, you have to provide a refrigerator. I definitely think you're going to have a hard time getting tenants without a refrigerator. So let's set aside, you know, this is just a swag, but $5,000. I do think it's in decent condition. I don't think you need immediate repairs. There wasn't anything like a deck that scared me, but you know, just some minor fixer-upper things. That brings everything very similarly. Let's look at, okay, so what are competitive rents in the area for this size home? And I'm just using Google. I use all kinds of AI, you know, ChatGPT, whatever is easiest in front of me. So wide standards listing between 1750 and 220. So very similar. Smaller, older homes, 1650 and older homes in established neighborhoods. Fair market value, 1850. So like I said, I do think this is somewhere in this spot. Let's check Zillow. What the rent, see if Zillow posts what it's rent not available. Okay. Let's quickly switch to rent really quick. See if we can find anything. How come my rents aren't working? Type any. All right, rent's not working. So let's go back for sale and figure out what's going on there. But let's just use this estimate really quickly. Oh, okay, here you go. It says it right here. Zillow, active rents, inventory from Zillow rentals. 3-bed, 2-bed. I think this is pretty close. Tesseract, just from size, location. We don't know age or anything like that. But ballpark figures, you're looking at 1950 is my guess. So let's just pick that, right? 1950. 1950. Again, even worse situation, not even worth doing a pro forma. I do think this house is greatly overpriced. So far off, so far off that I wouldn't waste my time making an offer, but I would keep an eye on it. If that days on market continues to linger a little bit longer, then I would do maybe another, let's do it, another situation where I lowball the offer. And this one, we knew like the price per square footage should be somewhere in the 190 figure, right? Somewhere around 190, 180 figure. Sorry, really, this formatting does not jive well with my mind, so I need to change that. But I would offer something, let's go low, really, in this area. Let's quickly look at what they, remember this was a flipper, so let's look at what they paid for the flipper, what the flippers paid for. So it looks like they bought around 245. They're trying to make what, 140,000 in profit. Doubt that they've held it for almost a year. Geez, that's rough. They're probably burning similar monthly costs as what we've estimated here. They've probably burnt 30,000 in a year. So 100,000. What did they do? Let's say they did floors, roof, kitchen, things like that. So they probably put in 50, 60,000. So 245 was 50. So their rehab, to give them a little bit of rehab costs, a little bit of breathing room, holding covering costs, so it's not a total loss. Let's go I do so 230,000. So that would bring us to 270. And then they put in 50,000. Oh, they're not gonna. This is not a good flip. I cannot offer this at a profitable amount for this to make sense, right? So they bought too high for a flip. It just doesn't make sense. The price per square footages in this area aren't this high, right? They need to be somewhere in the 285, in all honesty. Even then, that's aggressive. Wow, they need to be much lower, like 270. Truthfully, sorry, two. This would be a fair price based on Google's AI. I haven't done a deep dive, right? Not paying attention to the market as deeply as I should, but just going off the price per square footage for a home of that age, 65 years old, even though it's been renovated and new. So maybe they can charge upwards into the 200 something per square foot, but anything, it's not entering 250. Let's be honest. And so, does that make it profitable? Even then, with a fairer price per square footage, you would not make this property cash flow. So I wouldn't even waste my time with an offer, in all honesty. These flippers are upside down on this property. It's just a bad flip from a numbers standpoint. Now, if you're buying a home and you could get this low, it's a different story, right? That's awesome. It's probably a great equity position. You're getting a recently remodeled home. So buying and investing quite different. As an investor, I would walk away from this deal. As a buyer, it's been sitting on the market for nearly 30 days. Probably people are interested. It's not priced attractively. So as a buyer, a first-time home buyer, maybe that's interesting if I'm looking in the market. But as an investor, no thanks. Not interested. Okay. As I promised, three homes. We'll go and see if anything's interesting. So I saved this home. Don't know why. Don't remember why. Let's take a look at it. It is in. Let's try a different zip code because we already looked at 2761. Let's try. That's really close to. Let's look at this corridor again. Let's try on the west side, right? That's a condo, no, that's a townhome. That's a condo. Let's look for apples to apples comparison. So single family home. So let's filter out the property type to, since we were just looking at single family homes. Let's focus in on single family homes. Okay, so this just recently had a price cut today. So that one's an interesting one. Had a price cut a few days ago. That's 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet. Okay, so this is relatively close to what we were looking at. This has an HOA, so that's interesting. Let's look at that. Let's look at this one. Okay, Beach Gap Court. Interesting. As you can see, I have a lot of fun doing this. And I hope you guys are enjoying this as well. Like I said, it's a long video, so you might as well watch it sped up. But I hope you guys are learning something from this. What an investor does every day, or all day, every day. Okay, so about the same. I did not look at the age of the home. Built in 1994. Much smaller lot. Let's take a look at the pictures this time right away. I love the curb appeal. Needs a new paint job, not gonna lie. That kind of sucks. Needs like a deep wash paint job. Looks lived in. Don't like these front porch steps. That needs to be at least repainted. Interior work needs a handyman for sure. Like, come on. A fresh coat of paint. Not a huge fan of the popcorn ceiling, but it's probably not going to affect the sale. Does have window treatments, but it's okay. Don't know what that crack is or whatever. Random wire sticking out. Is that dents on the refrigerator? Who knows? Yeah, scuffs on the wall. What's all that about? Needs a deep cleaning, so think about that on repair costs. Why did they leave the mount there? whoever the real estate agent is not giving great advice to the lister or whatever. Just bare bones, bare minimum. Not even staged. This property is not going to move. I can tell you that right away in this competitive market. No crown molding. Where's the vent to the hood? Who knows? Real cheap countertops, no backsplash. So this is not a very appealing home so far. Given that, look at that cabinet tilt. No character, no box framing, nothing like that, no backsplash. Yeah, this is a bare bones listing. I'm gonna tell you that right away. Not great. Don't know what that's all about. Looks like crappy patching. Yeah, seriously. No washer dryer. Okay, so appliances to pay attention to. I do remember seeing a refrigerator, but that's not going to appeal to any. Or, you know, renters might want that, might not want that one. Might need to replace it. Honestly, when I'm outfitting a new property, certain appliances you just replace so it doesn't give you a headache later on in life. Don't like this. Don't like this at all. If I was going to pay a painter, I would just tell them to take that out, cut it out, and patch up the wall. Don't want to deal with that. Straighten out, remove these, straighten them out. What's up with the window dressing here? It's like they tried to put a cheap hanger and didn't do anything there. Not liking this property. May not even want to invest in it to begin with. Don't like, as you know me, I don't like the deck. Safety reasons, inspection reasons, age, wear and tear. You know, I come from the Bay Area. Things like this, structures in the Bay Area like this are just a nightmare to deal with. Inspection costs, things like that. It's just not worth my time and effort and the headache that it gives me. So I'm not feeling this property, but we picked it. So let's go through the exercises. Definitely, I'm honestly going to say this HOA is a ripoff. I'll tell you that. Whatever. I don't know. But it's not something that I would go for. Let's see. Downtown Raleigh State. Okay. Seller's now offering a buyer allowance I'm going to use towards up to. Okay. So they're giving a credit. So that's interesting. And they had a price right down. Properties being sold as is, obviously. You saw all the things that I pointed out. It does have central air, so that's awesome. Does a gas line. Refrigerator, okay. Hookups. Roof, HOA. Has a pool. That's interesting. Subdivision of Trailwood Hills. If I were interested, I would look into them, see how they're doing all that stuff. Are they worthy of? And this one nicely tells us the rent estimate. I think that's fair for Raleigh, not gonna lie. Listed for sale, listing removed. Listed for sale, listing removed. That tells me, oh, this was rented, long time ago. Okay, so they first listed back in March, removed the listing, so it went stale, went back on the market. So they're trying to sell this property. They didn't exploratory list. They're just trying to sell in different seasons. So let's go back to the buy box. This was built in 1994, right? Let's drag this calculation. Oopsie, back down. Yep. Let's drag all my calculations down. So let's go back to the end here. Let's do that. And let's go over here really quickly. And let's drag all my calculations down one row. Okay, so that's not this. This was like around 6,000 square feet, if I remember. 6,100, I'm just gonna round. 6,100. Did I look at the schools? Can't remember. Ooh, interesting, good schools. Not so good, but the middle school and the high school is good. So I'm not going to penalize that. I'm going to still rank this as a B, maybe even a C. The quality didn't show well, but I'm not going to hold that against it. Did have a deck. You know me, I'm not a fan of decks. Single family home does have an HOA. So I'll just give it a B. When was it initially listed? Listed 5/8. Really, we know that's been listed longer than that. This is not auto calculating, is it? It's messing up the days on market, so I will populate that myself. It's been on the market for 32 days. Good chunk. And the price was $324. Well below the national average. So that's appealing. Look at that price per square footage in this zip code. Again, let's say, what would it be for 276? What was it? 03? Was that the zip code? Yep, 27603. So let's see what that says. Oh, that's, sorry, rents. Sorry, that's the rents. Taking a look at that really quickly to absorb that information. We're looking close to here, somewhere in this ballpark, near downtown. Looks like rents are quite strong, actually, given your vicinity to probably your location. I actually think somewhere in the 2000s. Yeah, somewhere in the 2000s, like here. I would just do flat 2000 and see where you go there. But sorry, I was looking for the price per square footage. Oh, right here, price per square footage, anything to 205. Sorry, it says it right there. So definitely ouchie, not cool. Down payment, all that straightforward. Didn't see a washer dryer. Needs a lot of repair. Paint. What did we say? Patchwork. New front porch or steps to the front porch. Didn't see the garage. Probably needs power washing. May need exterior paint. Honestly, I think just off the top of my head, 12,000. That's including appliances and including about a month or two of what I would think is vacancy, right? Now I don't know what a handyman costs in the Raleigh area, but this is just my ballpark number, just off the top of my head, kind of a swag. But generally, I'm pretty decent at these things just from experience. So I think that would be a fair cost. We go over here, and like we said, everything was set for Raleigh here. So we already know insurance. I already know insurance just from like steadily. Property tax is calculated accordingly. Property management, because I do use property management for out-of-state investing. Holding for repairs again. I think that's a little biased. And then monthly rent. I think this area is slightly more desirable, just by a little bit. So I'll do a flat even $2,000. Aha. So now this gets closer to interesting. And why do I think that's interesting? Let's do our first pro forma. Pro forma being a what if scenario. So this is still not a great investment. 4.7% cap rate, negative 4.4 on cash on cash return, net NOI. So what's interesting about this is I think I could turn this property. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing, the HOA fee, which was how much? Let's get that HOA fee, $40 a month. So $39 a month. $39 a month. Okay, that's not significant. So let's take a look at this. I think this property, I might be able to make it profitable if these guys are willing to move off the purchase price. Let's look at this price history again. And let's say, okay, so they had a $10,000 cut. So they started at $360 and are now down to $325. So that's almost a 10% price cut. I would be looking for much higher than that. This number is not realistic, right? I don't think this is a competitive number. I may be wrong, but let's get that down to a more reasonable number, right? So let's say that number is closer to two, I don't know. Let's do another 10% would be $26 on the price per square foot. So let's take this down another 10%. So that would be around less than 300,000. But let's go in with that offer. and see where that goes. So yeah, that's about 10% off. Honestly, that's still high, but it's aggressive. I still don't like it at that price. Remember, the quality was not great. The schools were good. Had a deck. Was this the one with the deck? Let's take a look. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Let's go really quickly into the back end of here. Oh yeah, did have a deck. Yeah, not. Look at the neighborhood though. The surrounding neighborhood doesn't actually look that bad. I'd have to zoom out and look, but if you look at the neighborhood, it's got decent curb appeal, paved driveways and some whatnot. So let's go back to the photos. How do I go back to the photos? Yeah, the surrounding houses don't look that awful. Had a pool, so you know, interesting in that sense, but I still think that's really high. So let's go 295, 123. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I think that's fair. Let's look at that. Now, interesting. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. Like I said, I don't need to hold for repairs because I would need to buffer that. Just give in mind that you basically would need to hold anywhere from around 12 to 13,000 in your portfolio in cash to hold for about 6 months for any repairs, for any vacancies or anything like that. But in the long run, if you don't have any issues with the property and you don't need to consistently hold for vacancy and repairs, let's say you have a W-2 job and you're holding that over, don't need to pay that. Boom, you don't need to hold for vacancy or repairs. Your property is now cash flowing. Let's say you live in North Carolina, want to move there, and you want to self-manage and you don't need property management. Now you're making $150 a month. So this property is borderline. This property might be interesting. Would I invest in it? No, because your cash on cash return is only 2%. It's not a very appealing property. Your cap rate's all the way at 6.8%. So, okay, that's good. And your DSCR is over 1 now. That makes it interesting because you may be eligible now for investor type loans that you might honestly, DSCR loans a few months ago were better than conventional loans. So, and other times it flips. Sometimes conventional loans better, sometimes investor loans better. Really, it depends on the timing. So, but this is one that would be a possibility. Is this something that interests me a lot? No, again, the cash on cash return is not worth my time or effort. But this is one where, okay, we finally found one in Raleigh, North Carolina that can be profitable. It's upfront, it's not, because we're paying a nearly extra $400 a month in monthly expenses. I would do that up front. Don't get me wrong. If it were my cousin, as I said, making this video for her, up front, she doesn't have a portfolio like mine where other properties can carry low performing properties. And I have cash reserves for repairs and vacancies. Right now I have 0 vacancies, knock on wood. I'm very lucky. So that's why I'm not being punished by this. But starting off, you definitely need that fund. And like I said, I self-manage in San Jose, my properties in San Jose, but I do use property management for my properties in North Carolina. So in this instance, you might be able to remove that. You might not be able to remove that. For my cousin, she can't remove that. But if she has a W-2 job, feels comfortable not holding for repairs, she can start building equity, having someone else pay the pay down, and she can hold this not at a loss. Is it better than stock market? No. But is there less risk? Maybe, I don't know, more headaches. So that's where we are. We were able to somewhat find a profitable property in our search. I hope you had a lot of fun watching these. As you can tell, I really enjoy looking for properties. If there is a zip code or a city that you'd be interested in wanting me to do this type of analysis again with you or walk through, just reach out, leave a comment. I hope you really like this. If you stayed this long, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for all your time. Have a great one, everyone.